بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها الله.
يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي، أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها. يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد، أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة يا حجة يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا.
يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر، أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى، أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيه. لا. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي، أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيه. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد، أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند
الله، اشفع لنا. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي، أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وصي الحسن والخلفاء الحجة، أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي، يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. اشفع لنا عند الله. يا سادتي وموالي، إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله، وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله، فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله، فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله، وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله، فكونوا عند الله رجائي. يا سادتي، يا أولياء الله، صلى الله عليهم أجمعين، ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين، آمين رب العالمين. صلوات. Let's inshallah clean up for the next part of the program with another salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. السلام علیکم و رحمت الله و برکاته. خب اولتر از همه فرارسیدن ماه محرم و ایام سوگواری سید و سالار شهیدان جهان حضرت امام حسین علیه السلام خدمت ما شما عزیزان و سروران تسلیت عرض میکنم. میریم و برنامه امشب با تلاوت آیه 20 تا 24 سوره مبارکه بقره که توسط محترم حاج کریم بسام قرائت خواهد شد شروع میکنیم. ترجمه فارسی انشاءالله توسط حاج آقای تهرانی به سمع شما خواهد رسید. And the English translation will be recited by brother مهدی اصغر انشاءالله. از محترم حاج بسام خواهش میکنم که تشریف بیارن و آیه 20 تا 24 سوره بقره را تلاوت بفرمایید. برای سر سلامتی خودشان و فامیل محترمشان صلوات محمد پسند ختم بفرمایید عزیزان.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يكاد البرق يخطف أبصارهم كلما أضاء لهم مشوا فيه وإذا ظلم عليهم قاموا ولو شاء الله لذهب بسمعهم وأبصارهم إن الله على كل شيء قدير. يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. الذي جعل لكم الأرض فراشا والسماء بناء وأنزل من السماء ماء فأخرج به من الثمرات رزقا لكم فلا تجعلوا لله أندادا وأنتم تعلمون. وإن كنتم في ريب مما نزلنا على عبدنا فأتوا بسورة من مثله وادعوا شهداءكم فاتقوا النار التي وقودها الناس والحجارة أعدت للكافرين صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة. الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. نزدیک است که برق نور دیدگانشان را برباید. هر بار که روشنایی میتابد در آن راه میروند و آنگاه که تاریکی بر آنان افزون میشود از رفتن باز میستند و اگر خدا میخواست میتوانست شنوایی و بینایی آنها را ببرد، زیرا که خدا بر همه کار تواناست. ای مردم پروردگارتان را بپرستید که شما و آنان را که بیش از شما بودند بیافرید. باشد که پرهیزکار شوید. آن خدایی که زمین را برای شما بستری کرد و آسمان را چون گنبدی بیافراشت و از آسمان آب باران فرو فرستاد و بدان آب برای روزی شما هر گونه میوه‌ای پدید آورد. پس برای خدا همتایانی قرار ندهید در حالی که حق را میدانید. و اگر از آنچه بر بنده خود محمد نازل کردیم در تردید هستید، پس سوره همانند آن بیاورید و غیر خدا گواهان خود را فرا خوانید اگر راستگویید. اما اگر نمی توانید، که مسلماً نمی توانید، پس از آتشی که سوخت آن مردم بدکار و سنگ هاست بترسید که برای کافران مهیا شده است. صلوات.
In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the merciful. The lightning almost snatches away their sight. Whenever it shines for them, they walk in it. And when the darkness falls upon them, they stand. Had Allah willed, He would have taken away their hearing and sight. Indeed, Allah has power over all things. O mankind, worship your Lord, who created you and those who were before you, so that you may be God-weary. He who made the earth a place of repose for you, and the sky a canopy. And He sends down water from the sky, and with it brings forth crops for your sustenance. So do not set up equals to Allah while you know. And if you are in doubt concerning what we have sent down to our servants, then bring a surah like it, and invoke your helpers beside Allah, if you are truthful. But if you do not, and you will not, then beware of the fire whose fuel will be humans and stones, prepared for the faithless. Sadaqallahu al-Ali al-Azim.
Okay, I would like to thank Haj Karim Bassam, Ajagay Tehrani, and Brother Mehdi Asghar for reciting Quran and Farsi and English translation. Before we go to Ajagay Modarres' speech, a few announcements. Our special Muharram programs will continue all the way to August 21st, following Saturday, inshallah, every night at 8 p.m., starting with Maghrib and Isha prayers, followed by Ziyarat Ashura or Dua Tawassul or Dua Kumail on those special days, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Please be here. And also, as Ajaga mentioned, masking is required for everyone. So please, I mean, everybody is doing a great job. We're just reminding. everyone. We haven't seen anybody who was not wearing, so that's great. Thank you, thank you everybody for doing that. Second important thing, if you would like to save lives, you have an opportunity this Saturday. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in our Quran, if you save one life, it's like you saved the entire humanity, right? So you can save a life with donating blood, and this is the perfect opportunity. There will be a few buses here from Red Cross, and we owe this to Brother Dr. Ihsan Reza for coordinating that for Masjid al-Rasul. Thank you very much. Ajrakum Allah, inshallah. So as of the numbers as of last night that Dr. Reza has mentioned, I hope that it has gone up today. But we have 49 spots because of the COVID restriction. We can't have everybody or more participants, so it was 49 spots that or slots that they could give us or do it through the day, and 29 was taken as of last night. So the number has gone up a little, so please go there. It's imamhusseinbloodrive.org. Again, imamhusseinbloodrive.org. And once you located the page, once it's open, scroll down to Masjid al-Rasul, and there will be click or register here. Click that button, and you will be registered under our community here, and you can claim your spot, inshallah. That's the second announcement. The third announcement that they told me to mention that we need some water. If somebody can, this size or the smaller size that they sell in Costco, if somebody can sponsor for those, please don't bring those gallon size because there's no use for us to use those. Again, we have to put those in smaller cups. We don't want to touch that. So if you would like to donate water this size or the smaller size, even the smaller size would be more preferable. So that would be great. With that being said, Ajag Modarres has started the title of the speech or the session of the series would be How to Live Like Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And with permission from Ajag Modarres, I would like to add to it, in today's day and age, right? How can I apply those teachings to my today's life and how I can live like Imam Hussain alayhi salam based on his teaching? With no further delays, we will listen to Ajag Modarres' speech, inshallah, for the health of Ajag Modarres and his family. Please say aloud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأراضين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات هن أم الكتاب وأخر متشابهات فأما الذين في قلوبهم زيغ فيتبعون ما تشابه منه ابتغاء الفتنة وابتغاء تأويله وما يعلم تأويله إلا الله والراسخون في العلم يقولون آمنا به كل من عند ربنا وما يذكر إلا أولو الألباب صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the honor of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, his companions and all of the martyrs of the history of Islam recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. holy ignorance is the topic of tonight specifically. When we talk about how to live like Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, it is important to know that even in our day and age, we are dealing with a backward ideology and thinking that is somehow dressed in the name of religion and is being labeled as a religion or a religious matter. And when you look at the history of any religion, when ignorance takes over any ideology, it could be Islam, Christianity, or even non-Abrahamic religion, it could be Buddhism, you see that how violent and how destructive that religious teaching could be. So for example, we look at Myanmar and we see Buddhism burns alive Muslims, or at least people who claim to be Buddhist. In the name of their religious belief, they're committing one of the most horrific scenes for a human being to watch in the name of the religion. When you look at history, you see in the Crusade age, when church had the power, we had these courts of investigation of people's belief. And anyone who was condemned by that court that was run by the church, they would have been sentenced to death or even again burned alive. Somehow burning alive, it has a common practice across all religions somehow. Or the witch hunting, when you look at again the Dark Ages and how people were being labeled as a witch, they were burned at the stake. Or when you look at colonization of South America and how many indigenous people were literally killed and burned alive because of not submitting to the teaching of the church. Islam, we see Daesh as an example of burning people alive. We have other takfiri and extremist groups that if we put aside, there are a lot of factors. Yes, there are hands behind all these ignorant people as well. There are people who are taking advantage and they're opportunists who are looking for this kind of situation to advance their interest, without a doubt. But in reality, those people who becomes the puppets or they becomes the agents without even knowing of those powers behind them, the main reason they end up in that position is because of jahl, is because of ignorance. And one of the greatest lessons that we can live like Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is to educate ourselves and not to live in ignorance, specifically holy ignorance. Because if it's ignorant without holiness, you can object to it. You can debate it, you can argue with it. But as soon as you bring and make it religious or holy or sacred, then you kind of close the door of any kind of reason, any kind of discussion, because it's a sacred matter, right? So an example of that, we can talk about what is happening right now. Recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli. What we can see, as I mentioned, with Corona, and I come to that in a bit, but it is very, very relevant topic because, again, I believe that sometimes people distance themselves from religion because of the sacred ignorance. Things that they have nothing to do with faith or religion are being labeled as religious or is considered to be part of faith. And as a result of that, because anything that is ignorance by nature is repulsive. Knowledge, education, enlightenment, understanding is welcomed by everyone. And dogmatic, backward, ignorant behavior, superstitions, khurafa is something that is being rejected. So it is important for us to know that. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says this famous statement about is a ziyarat, but in our ziyarat, in the way that we honor Ahlul Bayt, there are statements that they are very educational. So about Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he says this, that لِيَسْتَنْقِذَ وَبَذَلَ مُهْجَتَهُ لِيَسْتَنْقِذَ عِبَادَكَ مِنَ الْجَهَالَةِ. Muhja refers to the blood of the heart. It refers to a kind of blood that is basically essential to your life. So Imam Sadiq said that Imam Hussein gave his life, he sacrificed it. He gave it, donated it, the blood of his heart, and in other words, his life, to save people from dhalalat, from misguidance, from minal jahala, from ignorance. So one of his key objectives was to save people from ignorance. And I mentioned last night that one of the obvious form of the ignorance at his time was that people killed Imam Hussein in the name of religion. Don't forget that Ibn Ziyad, imagine, is an enemy of Imam Hussein. But when he is encouraging his side and his army, and even we have in the day of Ashura, Umar ibn Sa'd said the same thing, they recited Quran to justify killing of Imam Hussein. He recited this ayah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes He differentiate between good and corrupt in this dunya. Al-khabith min al-tayyib, Quran says. So he was reciting Quran. So if you delete some of the words of Ibn Ziyad, his own opinion, his disrespect toward Imam Hussein, you delete those statements, you put aside and remove the examples that he made. In other words, the moment that he tried to interpret or he gave his own take of Quran, if you delete those, if you read it, you will assume, oh, look at it, this is a man of God talking. Looking at him is quoting Quran after another, one verse after another. So it's not like that he said, oh, I don't believe in Quran, put aside Quran, just listen to me and go kill grandson of the Prophet. No, he used Quran. And ignorance was the reason that people did not see that the issue is not with the verses that he recites. The issue is the application of those verses. Because the verses, there is a concept, and then you try to apply to a situation. And I've seen it, for example, I give you an example. I know couples who've been married for years, 10 years, 15 years, both religious, that they do their prayers, they don't drink, they stay away from the wrong to the best of their abilities. And they've been torturing each other in the name of religion for all that 10 years. That's ignorance. In the name of religion, they make life hell for one another. That's ignorance. So that's why it's so important and crucial to recognize ignorance and sacred and holy ignorance. How to do it, I will come in a few steps. The first thing which is very important to recognize in holy and sacred ignorance is to know that some of them that are being labeled as religion, their nature is not religious, but they're being fed to us for many years that they are. An example. It's not principles of our faith to believe that our prayer has to be answered. We don't believe in that in a way we want. It's not part of our belief. Although maybe in lectures, in those short TikToks and others that say, oh, call God and God will answer you. Yes, we believe God will answer, but it's not part of the religious belief. If you look at Quran as an example, it was never guaranteed that you pray to God and you get what you want. It was never in that case. Example, Allah said the story of Yaqub, Jacob and Joseph. They were separated. Yaqub was praying to God to be reunited with his son, but didn't happen. So his prayer was not, we don't say it wasn't answered. Allah answered it eventually years later when Yusuf now is in a different position. Now his honor and his stature is being proven to the brothers who were jealous of him and they thought they'd get rid of him. Years later it was proven, but right away Allah did not return Yusuf to his father. He never gave up from prayers. But one lesson that Quran says is that if you pray, don't expect right away answer. I mentioned this concept because One of the reasons I know people who disconnect from masjid, disconnect with prayers, their salat, is that I did pray, but nothing happened. But it's not part of our belief. That's ignorant to assume that's the case, because the best of people were the prophets of God. And Allah did not give them whatever they asked for right away. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he is a Khalilullah, he's a friend of God. Is one of the prophets that all the three religions fight over who is he, right? He belongs to Judaism, Christianity, Islam. We call him the father of all these religions. And for him, he was praying for a son for many years. But Allah said when he was at the old age, we granted him a child. We didn't give him right away. So we should understand that the purpose of dua and prayer is to connect with him. It is not an ATM. Allah is not a servant. He's not, like when you go to a restaurant and somebody comes and take your order and you look at the menu and say, this is what I want. That's not his role. Why? First thing, his wisdom is much more than we can imagine. And for somebody who has wisdom, it's unwise to listen and do whatever others say. For somebody who's wise, you don't do something that is ignorant. You don't do something that is pointless. So many of our prayers, we don't know. We think that's the best for us. But his wisdom says, I give you what you need. That's why we choose religion, by the way. The reason we choose religion, because it's the way of life, right? It's for one purpose. And that is that we are confessing that God, the complex universe you created, I don't have all the answers for everything. I don't truly know what is good for me. Even right now, as an example, you see how confusing things are. It's chaotic. I should wear 2 masks. I should avoid this. There's so many guidelines, and then there's so many contradictions at the same time. With something that should be very straightforward is not. And now assume what is truly a way to my happiness. I give an example. You look at motivational speakers. A lot of our young people listen to them. I don't want to mention names, right? There's some of them that they tell you what is happiness about? To do what you love. Another one tell you what's happiness about? To meditate. Another one say what's happiness about? To try to, instead of working 9 to 5, try to work 4 hours per day, right? Anyone with their own understanding of the world try to package and give us the answer that how you can be happy. Right now, just Google it, how to be happy. See how many thousands of books comes up on Google as a result of how to be happy. Some of them are saying the same thing, but some of them, their approaches are different. So we choose religion because we believe the one who created us can help us to find that peace and serenity that we're looking for. He is the most aware of what we need. We're struggling to find out what is best for us, but he knows what's best for us. But one thing when we go to him is that we believe he is wise. The creator who created us is not just the nature, is not just some power that does whatever it does. It's an intellectual, powerful being. That's why in Quran we have all these names for him. He is Alim. He's the most knowledgeable. He is Halim. He's the one with the most amount of forbearance. He is Qadir. He is the most powerful. And he is Hakim. He is the most wise. All wise. So to answer holy ignorance, I give an example. When the corona started, people had crisis of faith. Some people, even till this day, they do. What they said was, oh, look at corona came, and suddenly mosques were closed. You've probably seen that all over the internet. I talk about it, probably at the beginning of this pandemic. They say, oh, look at, that God, and believe in God is pointless. And look at this pandemic. It happened, and all these religions did nothing. Churches were closed, mosques were closed, synagogues were closed, temples were closed, everywhere closed. So where is your God? And some people actually fell for it. They start to doubt their faith. Yes, it's true that we believe that, God is so powerful. Why this pandemic is spreading and growing and people calling him and praying and nothing is happening? And I mentioned that day that nowhere in our teaching this was mentioned that you ask for something like pandemic to be over and it's going to magically happen. If it was the case, you look at the history. Nuh alayhi salam, Prophet Noah, he was a prophet for 950 years and he was consistently praying for the guidance of his people. But only 70 people, we have a narration, were guided. Few. He did his job, he did his part, he did pray, but people had free will. They choose their path and that's the result. He did not waste his time. He provided the opportunity. He was a messenger. He did deliver the message. If they take it or leave it, it was up to them. So it was not on his end. Same thing about the other natural disasters. Nowhere in Quran Allah mentioned that if you do this dua and prayer, no natural disaster will occur. Earthquake is going to happen, flood is going to happen. If there are disasters, if you can avoid, do it. Because we have verses that corruption, some form of corruption, occurs on the land because of what we do. As a consequence, as a karma of our deeds like global warming. You can't blame the nature for it. We did something. You try to fix something, you cause more damage than trying to fix it. So it is ignorance, holy ignorance, to assume that the purpose of religion is an ATM. I go to masjid the same way I go to a bank. I want this, I get it. If you come to the masjid for that purpose, you came to the wrong place. We came to the wrong place. And that's why when people come to the masjid, they don't wear masks. Say, Allah is great, Allah is protecting me. This is the majlis of Imam Hussein, I'll be protected. This is ignorant, holy ignorance. Why? Because if you wear the mask, you're saying that I don't believe in the greatness of God. So you close the door of argument and reasoning because I claim that if you wear a mask, you don't trust God. But did God say not to wear a mask? Why you make it a holy thing? You don't want to wear a mask for whatever reason you have. You read somewhere on Facebook that your immune system is strong enough and this is just a simple flu. I'm not saying that's what I believe. These are some of the famous narrative of the people who are opposing this pandemic, and they say it's just a big scam for somehow that literally disabled and kind of crashed the entire world economy. It's just a scam by someone. I don't know who's the one that is trying to make this scam. Everybody paid the price for this pandemic in the world. First nation, first world country, third world countries, rich, poor, everyone. And somehow still, some people after all this time, still say, oh, it's a scam. So with that person, if you want to go with that narrative, at least you did not make it holy. You tried to use your intellect, that's fine. You can insist on your side and we can debate on it and you can still, not leave your position, that's fine. But the moment you make it holy, the damage is significant. And that is the moment you are coming to that dangerous territory of making ignorant religious or holy. Because now I'm saying, oh, you're wearing mask? You're not a true believer. And worse than that is that people don't wear masks, right? They don't wear masks. I've heard these disasters that somebody wore mask and they got ill and they passed away, and somebody did not wear mask and they did not pass away. So the conclusion is we were protected by God and God did not protect you. This is the similar unfortunate, the term I'm looking for is, again, let's call it a very childish argument that they tell you exercise is good for your health, that cardio is good for your cardiovascular health. But look, turtles, they don't run, and look how long they age, and look at swallow and those birds and how active they are and how. What kind of an argument? So what should I do with that? Instagram or Facebook or whatever posts that. Okay, don't exercise. Probably you're going to live longer. With that kind of argument, you can do nothing. Because if that person was wearing mask, why they passed away? Was the breakthrough cases? Was they had underlying condition? What was the issue? But you're making a general assessment and you call them not protected by God, that somehow you kind of specialize God for yourself and people that think like you. When in Quran we read that Allah is Rahman, He is the merciful to all mankind, even to the one who doesn't believe in Him. So somehow you think Allah did not protect him and protected you only? Where in Quran Allah said that? Where in our religion Allah said that? To make fun of people who died and calling yourself a believer. You know the issue with that is that now imagine you did not wear a mask and you come to the masjid or you go to Hajj, you go to ziyarat, and you, God forbid, or someone around you got ill and died. What happens to your religion then? Throw it out. Oh, God did not protect me. I thought I was going to be protected. When in reality, religion never made that kind of a promise to us. And Allah gave us the example. Which prophet of God did not face trouble? Even Musa a.s. got sick. Said he is the one, he said it again, that I got ill the same way I had health from him. Sometimes I get sick. Our imams, which one of them would die the natural death? None. None. You say they did not pray to God? They did. But the ultimate is that which one truly earned success at the end? Because we don't define how we die, right? We don't. Things are out of our control. God forbid I can get into an accident. And then from within face, this is another disaster. When the ziyarat of the imams were closed because of this pandemic, there was a period of time they closed it. So, oh, there were people who were not Shia, the non-Shia Muslim. They pointed finger and they started heckling and making fun of Shias. Oh, look at the Shias. Their harams is closed. Their imam has no power. And you tell them, Hajj also is closed as well. So who are you making fun of? If you're saying that the ziyarat was the mean of health, you're saying the house of God is not the mean of health either? What kind of an ignorant comment is that, that you make an argument that is exactly defying yourself? That even before this pandemic in the house of God, one of the most sacred places on earth, you remember the accidents in Mina, how many people died in a stampede? Where in teaching of our religion they said, oh, when you go to Kaaba, when you go to Mecca, or you go to Karbala, no accident will happen. Who said it? So our expectation has to be fair. Don't label something. You may ask this question, so what's the point of dua? So why should I pray? If I pray, I don't get what I want, what's the point of dua? The point of dua is this. Number one, you trust God's wisdom over your wisdom. That's the point of dua. I ask for something, but ultimately I believe He gives me what's best for me. You beg God for something and Allah doesn't give you, your begging is not going to be in vain. That's one thing. Second, when you do pray to God, you're acknowledging that you are a creation. So you acknowledge your humility and humbleness before the Creator. Second benefit of dua. That I'm the abd, I'm the servant, you're the master in relationship with God. We're not both equal with God. I'm the creation. That's why I do dua. The third benefit of dua is that just praying itself, it has benefit. Regardless of the outcome, it has benefit. To know that you're not alone. You know, the worst feeling is to feel that I have no one. If you ask people with depression or suicidal, one of the symptoms for people who are suicidal, if you ask them, say, I have no one. I feel alone. I feel nobody cares about me, nobody loves me, nobody notices me. That's the worst thing you see for people who are dealing with severe depression. The benefit of dua is that you know you're not alone. So when we go to ziyarah, remember, we're not going to place an order to pick up our delivery right away. It's not a Prime membership to get whatever you want in 2 days, right? If you think that way about religion, we did not understand religion. That's our holy ignorance that we assume it that way. Imam Hussein is an example of that. So live like Hussein. Imam was saying tomorrow is the 2nd of Muharram. In such a time, he arrived in Karbala. So the way he ended up in Karbala is that his messenger, one of his messenger, Muslim, was killed on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, so almost 24 days ago. And then he sent a second messenger, Qais ibn Musahar. And that messenger was also arrested and eventually killed. He was sent to Kufa as well. So now the news are coming back as Imam Hussein is coming toward Kufa that Muslim is killed. And then Imam Hussein faced someone by the name of Hur. We know him as one of the companions of Imam Hussein, but at this time, before this day, a few days earlier, Imam Hussein confronted Hur, who was the commander of the army that was sent by Ibn Ziyad, the governor of Kufa at the time. So Ibn Ziyad told Imam Hussein that you cannot go back, so you cannot return to Mecca where he was coming from. You cannot go to Medina either. And you cannot go to Kufa either. So you cannot go back, you cannot go forward. You can just, if you want, you can move in this desert without a direction, without a destination. Or you can stop here. But what he told me, what Ibn Ziyad, this person that we said, La'an, oh Allah, deprive your mercy from him. This is what he told him. He said, Ibn Ziyad told me to just make it difficult for you. Don't let you to camp next to water. Don't let you camp somewhere that is shaded. So make it tough and difficult. You have to suffer. So Imam Hussein kept moving. And imagine the children, the family around him, asking where we're going. Until they arrived this land tomorrow, the 2nd of Muharram, they arrived in a land called Karbala. There was a village close by, good weather, water. But Hur said, you cannot go there, you have to stay here. And Imam asked, what's the name of this place? They told Imam Hussein, this is Nainawa, also called Karbala. Karb, by the way, means challenges, difficulty, hardship. Bala is affliction. So when Imam Hussein heard the name, he said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-karbi wal-bala. Oh Allah, I seek refuge to you from the hardship and affliction. You tell me, he did the dua. Did he get what he wanted? Or did he give up on his faith in God at the end? He did his dua because he trusts in Allah's wisdom over his wisdom. Today we know what that sacrifice meant, what that land meant. Today we know 15 millions of people, they go to the biggest pilgrimage on earth. Today we know about it. But back then Imam Hussein said, Allah protect me. But Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Allah said, I have a plan for you. And the plan is that for this blood is going to topple one dynasty, which is going to be Bani Umayyah, an end of Bani Umayyah, and is going to be a beginning of a source of inspiration for millions to come. That's Allah's design. We don't know. So don't label something we do not know as religious. Even on the lectures I've heard this, we should avoid this, that we always talk about miracles and magical stories, and suddenly out of the blue things happen. They are once in a blue moon. There are exceptions. The real life is not like that. It's not that in real life you should not expect miracles. Musa passed the sea, and one time Allah split the ocean for them. But it was not the case every time. Every time it's not going to be. That's the point of a miracle. It's once in a blue moon. Don't expect in your life that I want miracles. I did not study, somehow I'm going to ace it. I'm driving recklessly, I'm not going to get into an accident because I did pray. Our faith is based on consequences of our action. Don't look for miracles. Miracles is not part of our faith in religion. That I believe in religion because I want miracles. It's not a miracle factory for people. Allah showed miracle to prove a point, and even after that, some people still did not believe. Our miracle is that we're alive every day, is a miracle. Subtle miracles are in our days, in our everyday life. Every day we see miracles, but they're so subtle that we don't pay attention. That if you imagine right now almost 8 billion people on earth. From every aspect, health-wise, financially, if imagine there was a ranking system, how fortunate we are among that 8 billion people. I promise you we're in the top billion. It means that I'm more fortunate and blessed than how many billion people? 6 or 7 billion people. If I don't call that something to be grateful for, what it is, but we complain. I complain. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's too spicy, it's too tough, there's always something to complain. But Imam Hussein in such a time, he arrived in Karbala. And this was the time that it became certain that the death is close by. Because we have that there was tradition by Prophet who said that my son Hussein will be killed. You may say, Prophet didn't say that. Prophet did say that the same way he talked about Imam Mahdi. Shia and Sunni said he talked about the coming of Mahdi, the Savior. The tradition, he talked about what will happen in the future. Not exactly precisely in some events, but in some cases he exactly said about Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He said that from the childhood of Imam Hussein, that this son of mine will be killed and his body will be covered in his own blood. So when they arrived in Karbala and they told him this is the name of the place, and Imam Hussein said that sentence, and his family asked him, said, Ya Hussein, those were the children, said, Father, uncle, why you told us to stop? Imam Hussein said, this is our camp, this is our final destination. This is the place that I heard the name from my father and from my grandfather. So the camp was set up. But all the way in this journey, we have that Imam Hussein salam, he was helping every single member of his family to sit on a horse, to sit on a camel, or to get up from it. And this was the final time that he helped them to settle down. And then he said something that brought everyone to tears. He said, this is the place that we and our men will be buried. هذا محل رحالنا ومحل قبورنا. Our graves will be here. And as soon as he said that, we have that Hazrat Zainab heard this. Said, did I hear you correctly, brother? You just talked to us about your death? And Imam al-Hussein said, yes, my sister. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We are from Allah, our returners to Him. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifina'ik. Alayka minni salam Allah. أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. After Imam al-Hussein responded to his sister, Hazrat Zainab said something is narrated in the history in a maqtal. She said, هذا يوم قد ماتت أمي ومات أبي ومات أخي الحسن. Brother Hussein, when our mother passed away, I looked at you and I was sure that you were by my side, so I was able to tolerate it. The day our father, you brought him to our house when he was struck with a head that was bleeding, and then you took him in the middle of the night and buried him in secret. I still had hope that I have my Hussein, I have my beloved brother by my side. And the day that we buried the body of our brother Hassan, that his kafan was covered in arrows, I still had hope that I have Hussein. But today, now that you're talking about your death, today I lost my mother. Today I lost my father. Today I lost my brother. All those pain is now back. And she began to cry and she began to weep. And Imam al-Hussein looked at her and said, my sister Zainab, be careful, don't let shaitan take away your patience and sabr. Remember Allah, and a remembrance of Allah will give you sabr. But Zainab was still crying. But Imam Hussein said something. He said, Ya Zainab, if you want to cry, you have to wait for a few more days. There will be so many other bala coming on your way. You will have to cry after you see my body on the ground. Ya Rasulallah, Kulthum, she began to cry, Wa Muhammada, Wa Aliya, this is the grandson of Prophet talking about his death. But on that day, you know what made the situation much beautiful? The companions of Abu Abdullah, one by one, they came and said, Ya Hussein, until we're alive, no one will dare to come to you or your family. Until we are alive and there is blood in our bodies, we will be defending you. We will be defending the religion of your grandfather Rasulullah. But Imam al-Hussein was comforting her, his family, his sister, his children. But on the day of Ashura, toward the evening, when all these companions were gone and he was covered on all the injuries on his bodies, we have that the enemies, they marched toward the camp, toward the tents, toward the family. We have Imam al-Hussein, hardly he leaned on his sword and he stood up and he said, oh followers of Abu Sufyan, oh Shia of Yazid, oh followers of Yazid, if you have no religion, وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Let's inshallah everybody stand up for Azadari. We conclude with Azadari. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the honor of Abu Abdullah and Hussein, grant us a humble heart, a crying eye that is a sign of a healthy soul and a healthy heart. And may Allah, by the honor of Madhlumiyat of Imam al-Hussein, grant inshallah security and safety for all those who are oppressed, especially Madhlumin of Afghanistan very soon. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to trust in His wisdom, that whatever is khair for us, whatever is good for us, may Allah answer those du'as and prayers inshallah. Let's inshallah start the Azadari with the salam to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Assalamu alayk ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayk. Abdullah, Assalamu alayk. الله سيدي يا مظلوم يا أبا عبد الله سيدي يا مظلوم يا أبا عبد الله سيدي يا مظلوم يا أبا عبد الله سيدي يا مظلوم عبد الله السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام
عليك يا أبا عبد الله
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد
وصل علی این حسین کیست که عالم همه دیوانه اوست این حسین کیست که عالم همه دیوانه اوست این چه شمعیست که جانها همه پروانه اوست هر کجا می نگرم نور رخش جلوه گر است هر کجا می گذرم جلوه مستانه او هر کسی میل سوی کرب و بلایش دارد هر کسی میل سوی کرب و بلایش دارد من چه دانم که چه سریست به کاشانه او کربلا آغوش جان واکن که جانان آمده کربلا آغوش جان واکن که جانان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده همه کربلا آغوش جان واکن که جانان آمده کربلا آغوش جان واکن که جانان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده در منای عشق 72 قربان آمده در منای عشق 72 قربان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده کربلا آغوش جان واکن که جانان آمده کربلا آغوش جان واکن که جانان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده در منای عشق 72 قربان آمده در منای عشق 72 قربان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده زینب ام المصائب با دلی زار و پریشان آمده زینب ام المصائب با دلی زار و پریشان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده کربلا آغوش جان که جانان آمده کربلا آغوش جان واکن که جانان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده اکبر تازه جوان شمع شبستان آمده اکبر تازه جوان شمع شبستان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده اسخر شیرین سخن با خنده ابهان آمده اسخر شیرین سخن با چشم خندان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده زینب ام المصائب با دلی زار و پریشان آمده زینب ام المصائب با دلی زار و پریشان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده بر تو مهمان آمده زاده ام البنین سقف پای طفلان آمده، زاده ام البنین سایه طفلان آمده، بر تو مهمان آمده، بر تو مهمان آمده. تازه داماد زهر از حجله بیرون آمده، تازه داماد زهر از حجله بیرون آمده، بر تو مهمان آمده، بر تو مهمان آمده. کربلا آغوش جان واکن که جانان آمده، کربلا آغوش جان واکن که جانان آمده، بر تو مهمان آمده، بر تو مهمان آمده. پیر عاشق آن حبیب با چشم گریان آمده، پیر عاشق آن حبیب با چشم گریان آمده، بر تو مهمان آمده، تو مهمان آمده، بر تو مهمان آمده، مهمان آمده، بر تو مهمان آمده.
حاجیان رو بسوی کعبه دوید، ما سری کوی تو داریم امید، تا که از تیغ ستم گشتی شهید، سنگ باران تو را لدید، ورنه می مرد با وقت هجران. گفت و صغرا با پدر کیشای ابرارم مرو، من که بیمارم مرو. گفت و صغرا با پدر کیشای ابرارم مرو، من که بیمارم مرو. جان بابا من مریض و بی پرستارم مرو، من که بیمارم مرو. گفت و صغرا با پدر کیشای ابرارم مرو، من که بیمارم مرو. گفت و صغرا با پدر کیش ای پدر بگذر با جان من تو دیگر دل سفر، ای ولی دادگر جان بابا کن نگاه بر من خون جگر، کن دیگر صرف نظر زین سفر بابا با جان حضرت خیر البشر. ای پدر جان در گذر جان بابا من به هجر تو گرفتارم مرو، من که بیمارم مرو. گفت و صغرا با پدر کیشای ابرارم مرو، من که بیمارم مرو. گفت و صغرا با پدر می روی با خود پدر جان اکبر لیلا مبر، اندران صحرا مبر. آخر ای بابا در اینجا من شوم تنها مبر، من کنم پوغا مبر. از فراقت ای پدر بین چشم خونبارم مرو، من که بیمارم مرو. گفت و صغرا با پدر کیشا من که بیمارم مرو. گفت و صغرا با پدر کیشای ابرارم مرو، من بیمارم مرو. ای پدر آیسته ترسا سیر بینم روی تو، صورت نیکوی تو. صبر کن بابا ببینم قامت دلجوی تو، زنده ام با بوی تو. خم شود قدم ز هجرت چون خم ابروی تو، کی بیایم سوی تو. از فراقت در غم و اندو بسیارم مرو، من که بیمارم مرو. از فراقت در غم و اندو بسیارم مرو، من که بیمارم مرو. گفت و صغرا با پدر کیشای می روی بابا اگر همراه مبر تو اصغرم، نور چشمان ترم ده اجازه تا بماند ان عزیزم در برم. شیر خارا اصغرم کز فراقش روز و شب جان پدر در آزرم عاقبت جان بسپرم از فراقش ای عزیز حی دادارم مرو من که بیمارم مرو افت صغرا با پدر کیشای ابرارم مرو من که بیمارم مرو گفت صغرا با رفتی و بابا نگفتی دخترم بیمار شد بی کس و غمخوار شد تو نگفتی درد و غمهایش پدر بسیار شد فاطمه تبدار شد من مریض و خسته و بیمار و تبدارم مرو من که بیمارم مرو گفت و صغرا با پدر کیشای ابرارم مرو من که بیمارم مرو گفت و صغرا با پدر کیشای ابرارم مرو من که بیمارم مرو اجرکم الله بارگو پیامبر که علی جان من است هم بجان علی و اسم محمد صلوات شکر خدا شما را
السلام عليك يا رسول الله يا نبي الله يا خير خلق الله يا خاتم النبيين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين ويا إمام المتقين علي بن أبي طالب السلام عليكم وأيها الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين السلام على محمد بن علي باقر علم النبيين السلام على جعفر بن محمد الصادق السلام على موسى بن جعفر الكاظم السلام على علي بن موسى الرضا السلام على محمد بن علي التقي الجواد السلام على علي بن محمد الهادي النقي السلام على حسن بن علي العسكري الزكي السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان يا خليفة الرحمن يا إمام الإنس والجان السلام عليك النبوة ورحمة الله وبركاته بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the health and well-being of all those who are marid, and for the amwat and marhumin, especially marhumin of the our sponsors of the majalis, volunteers, especially our brother Sairullah, who's inshallah been doing the cooking for our Muharram majalis, for all their marhumin and the well-being of them and their families. Please recite Surah Fatiha and salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Taqabbal Allah, may Allah inshallah accept from all of you. As you're leaving, try to again, because it's after 10, try to be as quiet to help our neighbors. As I said, it's just for the right of the neighbor. You've been doing, alhamdulillah, very good. You've been helping us, all of us we've been following. These are just reminders to keep up the good job, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. See you inshallah tomorrow.